stairs to your apartment, doing nothing to break your chest in the cold sunlight of morning.
Well, first of all, I would like to start asking you about your last record, The Greatest Generation. To me, that record is much more melodic. In general, I would say it sounds more rock than and less punk hardcore than your previous works. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I guess so. Not necessarily intentionally. It just that's the kind of songs we wrote. It just we just spent a lot of time working on the songs, and because there's six of us in the band, and all
Mm-hmm.
six of us have an opinion. It's
Yeah,
kind of like a
yeah, yeah.
it's all collaborative. It's a collaborative work. So
Oh,
it kind of just leans or lends itself to the idea that that's more what we're influenced by now.
it's been only a few months since the record came out, but I would like to ask you if you have already new material, or are you working in something else, or do you have plan to release any new material like an split album or an EP or a new video single or anything?
I mean, not necessarily new music, but we're working on a music video, and we've just been on tour pretty much since the day the record, actually since a couple of days before the record came out. So there hasn't really been any time to write songs. We haven't been home, so and
Yeah,
we don't write on the road. Some bands can write when they're on tour. That's not us.
yeah, yes, touring right now. On what I thought, no. Um,
Yeah, we've been on tour since May 9th.
Mhm. Okay. We would like to ask you, what are your main influences? I mean, the bands that you will call your reference.
The main influences for this record?
No,
Um,
for your band in general.
huh. I mean, lyrically for me, I'm influenced a lot by the Hold Steady and the Mountain Goats.
Hmm.
I think musically we're influenced from everything from Motion City Soundtrack to some weirder stuff. Bands like Envy, or like Hope Conspiracy. Kind of across the gamut. And we just like I said, everyone in the band has their own set of influences, and every song is written by all six of us. There's no like
Yeah, it's
it's
like
not like one person writes one song, one person writes another.
yeah, it's like
So with all of those people pushing and pulling, the songs kind of center themselves in a sound that we think is distinct to
yeah,
ourselves.
a mixture of the six of you. That's what you're saying. Now you're going to come to Europe for a European tour next month, and finally you're going to be here in Spain with 2 days: Barcelona November 28th and Madrid November 29th. Is your first time here in Spain playing as a band?
Yeah, it'll be our first time ever in Spain and in Italy. Our first time in either country, and we're really, really excited to do it. We're really looking forward to that more than anything else.
What do you expect from the Spanish audience? Has anyone told you anything about the shows in Spain, or what can you expect about the people that goes to the show?
I have no idea. No one's told us anything. We know that some people from Spain came to see us in Switzerland once, but that's really all we have to go on. So we're just excited to try a new spot. We know we've been getting some fantastic press from people like yourself in Spain for a long time. So hopefully we can live up to the hype.
During all these years, I saw you play with a bunch of bands. And with whom you were more excited to play with?
I'm really excited to play with Yellow Card again for the European Warp Tour dates. They're just good friends of ours, and we haven't got a chance to see them in a while, so it'll be good to catch up.
And is there any band that you haven't played yet, but you would like to do it in the future?
Bands I'd like to play with in the future? Yeah, I mean, we'd love to play with Taking Back Sunday. We'd love to play with the Hold Steady. Let me think of what else I'd like to do. I mean, I'd love to play with Blink-182, obviously. La Dispute would be really good. We've never done a tour with La Dispute. Those guys are great.
Well, we have a mandatory question for our interviewees since we are in Spain. Do you know any Spanish punk or hardcore band? Feel free to say no, but do you know any?
Any Spanish bands?
Yeah.
No, I remember a band from Italy called La Crisa,
From
but nothing from
Italy, you know.
from Italy, but nothing from Spain that I can think of off the top of my head.
I would like to ask you a few things about your lyrics, if you don't mind. Once you explained that your second record, The Upsides, was going to be about how you had given up, but then you have like a revelation, and you realize that it's better to fight back, and that is what the album is about, not being sad anymore. I think Suburbia, your following record, it follows the same optimistic line, but instead, your last record, this positivity seems to be vanished. It comes to my head like songs like "Passing Through" or "A Screen Door." Why is it? Has something happened, or is just that life becomes more and more complicated each time? What will you say?
I just think that the subjects of the songs are more complex than just positive or negative now. I actually think that this is probably the most positive record we've ever written, but it's not about, being happy or sad. It's about serving a purpose in the world.
Yeah.
I think that, we dealt with happy and sad for a long time, and now we're moving on to something a little more complicated.
Yeah,
than
something more complex, like just happy or sad.
Yeah, exactly. I think that this is, I think this record has more of a positive vibe than any record we've done in the past, but that positive vibe is more about changing the world than it is about, feeling better about.
Being happy or being sad for whatever that is. In songs like "I Won't Say the Lord's Prayer" from your previous records, you claim that despite all difficulties, you don't need to be saved by God. With some difference, the same idea repeats in Madeline from your last record. To be honest, this really shocks me because against all the difficulties in the world, who doesn't want to be safe? I don't know. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more about kind of being self-sufficient. It's definitely speaks to that idea that
not depending,
we can be
not depending on something.
Yeah. Yeah, it speaks to the idea of a personal strength. I said this recently in a post for Glamour Kills, but without an idea of an afterlife, when you think about just being dead when you're dead, it puts a lot more value on this life, which is kind of my goal, is to make sure that everything I'm doing in this world is making as big of an impact as it can, because that's the legacy I want to leave.
Well, your last record is selling very well, much better than your previous works. Why do you think is this?
I think it's because for us, it's always been about a slow, gradual build. Some bands kind of have the right song at the right time and just rock it to the top. For us, it's been a long set of stairs. There's no elevator. It's just every step is one more closer to the top. And so every record we've ever released has sold more than the previous one, and that's the model we're after.
Yes,
we just want to continue to make quality content.
You keep growing up as a band.
Yeah, it's just growing as we age and as we continue to release things. What I think that speaks to is the fact that we're able to keep our fan base intact. So I think a lot of bands or a lot of times when bands release new records, they'll lose a lot of fans and they'll gain a whole different fan base. But I think that we're continuing to keep our core fan base and then just building slowly from that.
In your songs, also there's a recurring theme in your lyrics. And this is the relationship with your hometown, with your origins. If I'm not mistaken, it seems to me a really ambiguous relationship, like a love and hate relationship. Sometimes what you call home seems to vanish, and not, to me, that's the reason that you find the need to look for a place that you can feel like home. Where does this ambiguity come from?
I think that, you're always going to have a certain soft spot for the place that you grew up, but there's always going to be a certain sense of bitterness too, because you're going to have good and bad memories tied to that place, and people from there are going to change. Everything about it's going to change.
Yeah.
And you might grow to love those changes, and you might grow to hate them, but it's not the same way you remember it from when you were younger. So when you come back to the town that you spent your whole life in, after leaving it for a while and looking at it again, it's a lot easier to criticize some of the things, but it's also a lot easier to fall in love with the nostalgia of it.
If you have to think in a place that you can call home right now, what that place would be?
I live in the same town I've always lived in. I live with my bass player and my friend Richie.
You're still in the same place?
Yep. Just I literally live probably 5 minutes from the house I grew up in.
I was going to ask how you work, how you compose your songs, but you told me you all six work together.
Yeah, so what'll
So
happen is one of us will have an idea, and then we'll bring that little idea to practice, and then everyone will kind of get their hands in it, and we'll shape it into a song.
someone comes to the studio and say, "Hey guys, I have this," and you start working on that.
Exactly, and we'll all start working on it together.
After the release of the split Distance with All or Nothing in 2009, Mikey Kelly, your former keyboardist, left the band. From that moment, it seems to me that the keyboards have been disappearing from your songs. How can you explain this change?
Well, when we started the band, we were just friends that wanted to play music. Mikey didn't know how to play keyboards. He just wanted to be in our band, and we wanted him to be in it. And so it's not that we ever set out to be a band that had those parts in the songs. It's just that we wanted to be a band that had Mikey in it. So when Mikey quit, it was like, well, there's no need to put those synth lines back in to future songs. We didn't necessarily felt like we didn't feel like we needed them in the earlier songs. We just needed Mikey. The person was more important than the instrument.
Yeah.
But now that Nick's in the band, we have plenty of keyboards going on. It's just a different keyboard sound.
Yeah.
You can hear it heavily in songs like "Devil in My Bloodstream" or "They're There." He plays it a lot in Teenage Parents.
You have worked with two independent labels, No Sleep and Hopeless. Could you tell us the main difference between the both of them?
It's just No Sleep is a smaller label than Hopeless. Hopeless has got more resources and a more established set of connections and have been doing it for a lot longer. So No Sleep has a certain vibe to it where it's kind of like it's a little more like the Wild West, like anything goes. You can kind of do. Actually, I wonder if the Wild West is a lost idiom on you. It's more, it's more free moving. Like it's not as set in its ways. Whereas Hopeless, I feel, is a little bit more, established in how things get done.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Hopeless has, like I said, an infinite pool of resources to pull from. So.
Yeah, I guess. In your last two records, you also work with Steve Ibbets as producer. He has worked with a bunch of bands, but a lot of bands that he has worked with are related to metal music. How would you say Steve has contributed to the sound of the Wonder Years?
He doesn't change the songs a whole lot. Like I think some producers will make some alterations to songs. He doesn't do a lot of that. Mm-hmm. He's more about just making everything sound huge. Mm-hmm. So and getting good takes out of us. So like he'll work me really hard to get the vocals the exact way that he wants them to sound, and he gets something out of me that I couldn't get out of myself. So like if you just put me in front of a microphone mm-hmm. and have me sing. Versus if Steve's there coaching me, there's a difference. Like Steve will get a better take out of me. Mm-hmm. He gets out of everybody.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.